Hi and welcome to my channel. In this episode I would like to talk, amongst a couple of other things, about film holders or double dark slides. Right, before we get into double dark slides or film holders, I'd just like to do a sort of report on my Cameot changing tent. Sadly, it has died after only 4 or 5 months. The zip went. So at the moment I'm having to hold back on large format work because I can't load these pesky things because I don't have a room I can black out. Unfortunately, the UK supplier of these, who is very kindly going to get me another one, replace this because clearly the zip was faulty, haven't got any in stock. So I've got to wait for a few weeks. Unless I can find a particularly good way of blacking the space out, which I doubt in this flat, I'm not going to be able to do any large format, so I'll probably be concentrating on medium format. But that doesn't stop me from getting into these. I've been meaning to talk for some time about dark slides in general. Film holders, dark slides, terms are pretty much interchangeable. 541s, 571s. Come in several different flavours. I think pretty much all the 541s that you'll see will be the plastic variety. Plastic body, plastic slide. These are great. But there is an issue in the fact that I've seen them severely overpriced, particularly on eBay. I suppose you could say they're worth whatever the seller can get for them, but I've seen ridiculous prices of £30 each for them and things like that, which they're a plastic thing. They're not worth that kind of money. I believe that there are some photo dealers, etc., that you can get them for about £10 or £12 each, and that sounds much more like the correct sort of value for these. They do have advantages and they're pretty tough, but the problem I find with plastic is that it's incredibly prone to attracting dust. You get a static charge on it and the dust just migrates to it, and it's very difficult to get off and to keep off. I don't use, a lot of people use a blower brush. I don't tend to do that because when you use a blower brush, you're blowing the dust up in the air or off and simply allowing it most of the time to settle back where it was. So I use an anti-static brush and I give it a good brush out, and then between uses I store my dark slides in these freezer bags, so they get cleaned and they get loaded and put away empty, and then they get stored in freezer bags. Now this is pretty convenient. I tend to carry everything in a shoulder satchel when, even if I'm wearing a backpack, if I go out with the 5.4 camera. And I usually have a compartment for unexposed film and a compartment for exposed film. And I try to be very rigorous about taking it from one and putting it in the other, because you need to keep track of these things. Never mind the fact that, of course, you turn around when you shoot an image, you turn around the slide from, in my own system, it's from silver side, and when it's exposed, I turn it around to black side. And all my dark slides are numbered, and I try to use them in order. But occasionally confusion does happen, and sometimes you think, have I shot that, haven't I shot that? Is that an the classic one is that a full dark slide or an empty dark slide if you happen to store them in the same cupboard or whatever. So note taking, use of stickers is very good as well on these. So that's the 5.4 ones. Don't pay too much for them. That will be my my main thing line. And do your best to keep them clean. Keep them in plastic bags and store them away in a nice clean environment. Okay, so on to larger format, 5x7. If we think that 5x4 film holders are a little bit pricey, then 7x5 film holders are considerably more expensive. This in the UK is largely due to the fact that 7x5 never really took off in the same way that, say, 5.4 and 10.8 did. And so most of the time when you're getting 7x5 holders, you're having to get them from outside the UK. Or if you're very lucky if you find them within the UK. These Lisco Royals, and I've got a couple of these, and these are the plastic sort, very much like the 5.4 film holders. I had to get these from New York, and of course the postage was considerable on them. But then I actually came across what I described as a very, very lucky find. A whole load, and there are more in the cupboard behind me, of these old Kodak, I think they're marked Eastman US patent 5x7 film holders. And I got these from, I think it was a kind of a junk shop trader on eBay. And I got a whole bunch of them, I think about 10. There was one that was beyond repair, but all of them were a bit dusty and a bit, a little bit wearing their age, and they all had defective tape on the back edge, and they have, they're wooden, and they have, it's a little bit reluctant there, although it's okay if you get a direct pull on it. They have kind of Bakelite, some of them have Bakelite slides, and some of them actually have metal slides. But I've replaced the tapes on these, and I'm now going to show you how I did that, because these are actually quite a bargain. I think I paid in the region of £50 to £60 for a whole stack of these. And they're very, very serviceable, and that's what I've been using with my 7.5 travel camera. And they're really quite easy to put back into service, and they have a huge advantage as far as dust is concerned, strangely, because of course they're not plastic. Therefore, they're not prone to static, and dust comes off them more easily. Although, having said that, these were very, very dusty when I first got them. But without more ado, let me get into the process I used to redo the binding. These old film holders are actually quite beautiful objects in their own right, really tactile, and they're nice to handle, far nicer to handle than modern plastic ones. There are a lot of very interesting markings on these before I get into the actual repairing them. What we had was, I think this might be a studio or a photographer's name, I don't know. If anybody online knows, maybe they can let me know. Some of the film holders were marked made for Eastman by Graflex, and they have a kind of a black lacquer finish to them, and this little stick-on label was in one corner. Looks like Mr. and Mrs. Frederick D. Countess, 33 East Bellevue Place, Chicago, 11 Illinois. Love to know who those people were. But anyway, let's get on to the repairs. Of course, the chief issue with the film holders was the tape, as well as being incredibly dirty. They actually had what looked like some pigeon poop on them. God knows where they've been stored. But the tape, as you can see when I put a light behind it, is virtually non-existent on them. So something had to be done about that. Otherwise, literally the loading flaps would have come off. It's not so much that they wouldn't be light tight, because there's another light trap system there, which the tape doesn't do much in the way of light trapping, but it certainly wouldn't be too handy for the flap to fall off when loading. So we had to get something to do that job with. The only things you really need for this job are a sharp knife and some bookbinder's tape, and I'll put a link to where I got my bookbinder's tape in the description. And quite a lot of patience for actually getting the old tape off, because it's actually really easy to either damage or crack the flaps on the film holder if you're too rough with it. So you have to take your time and you have to do a lot of peeling and scraping. Firstly, I very, very carefully removed the film loading doors or flaps from the film holder. I didn't actually have to use a knife for this. They practically fell off, but the tape was very, very strongly glued to the flaps still, and it took a considerable time to peel and scrape it off, and most of the glue from the back of the tape stayed on the wood, so I got quite a messy job in scraping that off without damaging the wood. Eventually I got there, and then I started peeling the little strip that was left on the back edge of the film holder. As soon as the tape was peeled and removed and all that sort of grey-black rubbish removed from the both the flaps and the little spine that you can see in the picture there, I gave the whole dark slide a really, really good clean out with a vacuum cleaner. Well, not using a blower brush or anything like that, but a vacuum cleaner that would actually get all the dust and debris out of the way. There you can see pretty much all of the glue residues off, and I refitted the flaps to check their fit. In a couple of the film holders there were some very small splits in them, in the flaps, so I used a little bit of wood glue and a clothes peg to close up the crack and make it all nice again. So the retaping process all begins with starting flush in the little groove on one side with the tape and making sure your tape is over length for the whole side, as you can see there. You simply firmly smooth the tape out over the spine and down the other side, and then very, very carefully with your sharp knife you trim the tape flush to the edge of the little
rebate or groove on the other side so that the tape doesn't basically get knocked off when you put the double dark slide into your camera back. And the final job is to very carefully trim the bits off at the end there, which cover the bits that don't move of the frame. And then that's really the job done. I gave the film holders another very, very thorough cleaning with a vacuum cleaner. And then I made sure I didn't use them for anything majorly vital until I'd had a chance to put at least one sheet of film through them to check if there are any light leaks. And I was very lucky that so far there don't appear to be any light leaks from any of them. So that was rather cool.
Of course, the skill of replacing the tape on a film holder doesn't just apply to the old wooden holders. These plastic Regal type ones, they have exactly the same sort of tape, although it doesn't go into replates on the sides. Also, of course, 5x4 film holders, they're not exempt from having tape issues, and their tape tends to go, this is a Toyo film holder, their tape tends to run around the edge like the older Kodak ones, so I think they may be a little bit easier to do. The tape itself I think was around £8. It's not super expensive, neither is a particularly difficult job to do. The taped holders have held up well in the very warmest of weather. They just lifted slightly at the corners, but just running your fingers down like that will stop it. I think that probably would have happened with any form of self-adhesive tape. There's loads more coming up on this channel very, very soon. There's another episode in the pipeline of my building a 5x7 camera. Takes a little while to prepare these because I'm actually building the camera in real time. A couple of weeks ago I made the bellows, and I'm going to be attacking some of the woodwork on it very shortly and actually getting the focusing mechanism sorted out. So if you want to give us a like, will be much appreciated. It does the channel a lot of good. And if you want to see more, well, why not think about subscribing? So, until I see you again, take care.